Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into a seriously mind-bending story that honestly challenges everything we think we know about reality. Have you ever walked down a street, turned a corner, and just felt this sudden, inexplicable sense that something about the world was off? Like, just slightly wrong? Well, what if that feeling wasn't just in your head? We're unpacking one of the most fascinating modern legends on record today, a case that literally forces us to question the very boundaries of our world.
Mysterious People from a Parallel Universe. This translation of our source material's title perfectly sets the eerie sci-fi tone for what we're investigating right now. We aren't just talking about a lost tourist here or some international spy on the run. No, we're digging into the incredible idea that right next to our world, existing simultaneously but just completely out of sight, are other realities. And occasionally, maybe by some cosmic accident, people from those alternate realities actually cross over into ours. So the big question is, what actually happens when a traveler arrives from a country that simply does not exist? Just try to put yourself in this situation for a second. Imagine standing at customs after an exhausting flight, you confidently hand over your passport, only for the officer to look at you with total blank confusion. Why? Because the nation printed in big, bold letters on the cover of your document isn't on any map. This is the exact impossibility authorities faced during a bizarre incident that has baffled people for decades. It really forces us to ask if this guy somehow slipped through the cracks of reality itself.
Section 1. Arrival at Tokyo Airport. Let's see how this builds from a totally grounded, everyday location into an absolute mystery. So the year is 1954, Haneda Airport in Tokyo. What's really interesting here is how chronologically mapping these events shows a routine customs check just rapidly spiraling out of control into an impossible vanishing act. It's a completely standard day of international travel. Flights are landing, business people are rushing through terminals, customs officials are checking documents, business as usual. Nothing suggests the fabric of reality is about to tear open, until a smartly dressed European man steps up to the desk. At hour 1, he arrives. Normal enough, right? But things instantly go off the rails. By hour 3, he's pulled into an interrogation room because his documents completely, utterly defy logic. Fast forward to hour 9, the authorities are so baffled by this guy's existence that they lock him in a local hotel under strict armed guard. And then, hour 24, the climax. He vanishes completely. So let's break down exactly what caused this insane escalation.
Moving on to our next section, the impossible travel documents. Let's look at the physical anomalies that totally stumped the airport officials.
This perfectly illustrates the core conflict of the whole mystery, this stark, unexplainable contrast between our known geography and this traveler's supposed reality. On the left side, we've got our universe, our standard everyday map. But on the right side, the man claimed he was a proud citizen of a country called Taured. He even pointed to a map of Europe, placing Taured right smack on the border between France and Spain. But as we all know, in our universe, that exact spot is occupied by the Principality of Andorra. And get this, the man was reportedly furious, like genuinely confused and angry. He insisted Taured had existed for over 1,000 years. He wasn't acting like some con artist trying to pull a fast one. He was acting like a guy whose entire reality had just been completely rewritten without his permission. The absolutely crucial point here is that this wasn't just some simple language barrier or misunderstanding. The guy carried an entire profile of impossible evidence. It all revolves around the stuff he pulled out of his pockets and his briefcase. First, his passport looked entirely authentic, high-quality, official. But it was issued by the non-existent state of Taured. And what's even wilder? The passport was packed with legit-looking stamps from previous trips all over the globe, including past visits to Tokyo. I mean, how do you even fake years of consistent international travel stamps? On top of that, his wallet contained a mix of real, recognized European currencies. But his bank statements? They were from a bank literally no one had ever heard of. Even the Tokyo companies he claimed he was there to do business with flat out denied knowing him. Every single thing he owned proved he existed. Just, in a world that wasn't ours.
Which brings us to our next section, the parallel universe theory. To explain the unexplainable, we kind of have to shift focus from the tangible evidence to a really fascinating theoretical concept. Look, if we rule out an elaborate prank, which honestly makes zero sense given his genuine distress and the incredibly high quality of his documents, we have to look way beyond standard logic. By anchoring this wild narrative to the scientific concept defined here, a parallel universe, we can actually start to theorize that the traveler from Taured accidentally crossed a dimensional boundary. Think of it kind of like different radio stations broadcasting in the exact same room. You only hear the station your radio is currently tuned to, right? But all those other signals are still physically bouncing around the room. A parallel universe operates on that same basic idea, that there are distinct, separate realities layered right over our own. In his frequency, his specific reality, T8 is a real, bustling European nation with a busy international airport. Through some bizarre glitch in space-time, he somehow stepped out of his frequency and walked right into ours at Haneda Airport.
Now for the final act, section, An Unsolved Reality. Let's look at the aftermath of this bizarre encounter, and how the sudden lack of evidence somehow deepens the whole legend.
As night fell in Tokyo, these officials found themselves dealing with a literal, real-life, locked-room mystery. They had a guy they couldn't deport because, well, his home country didn't exist, and they couldn't process him normally because he hadn't actually broken any recognizable laws. So they put him in a high-rise hotel room. Keep in mind, there was absolutely no balcony and the windows were completely sealed shut. To be extra safe, they stationed armed guards right outside the single door for the entire night. But the next morning, the ultimate twist. The man disappeared without a single trace. He was just gone. Poof. And to make matters even more chilling, all of his personal belongings, the Taured passport, his driver's license, those weird bank documents, which, by the way, had been locked in a completely separate security room miles away at the airport, they mysteriously vanished at the exact same time, leaving us with absolutely nothing but a haunting story.
So, did the universe just correct a glitch? Was he violently pulled back into his own dimensional frequency just as abruptly as he arrived here? I want to wrap up this explainer by leaving you with this final, incredibly provocative thought to chew on. If the man from Taured was real, it heavily suggests that our map of existence is fundamentally, glaringly incomplete. Could our reality really be just one of many, stacked tightly together like pages in a massive book? It's a thrilling and honestly kind of terrifying thought that challenges literally everything we know. Thanks for joining me today, and hey, keep your eyes open. You really never know who might be traveling from a world just next door.